Okay, this is the follow-up to our NLST call from yesterday. Now remember, we said we'll buy if it gets to 450. It had a, let me scroll across here a little bit. Yeah, it gapped down a little bit. Here's yesterday's close. It gapped down a little bit, but to me that didn't bother me. But one rule we do teach our members in our live trading chat room: if something triggers in the first 5 minutes, pass on the trade. Okay, NLST did trigger in the first 5 minutes, so in effect it was basically a no trade. Now that said, we also have an exception to the rule, or another rule if you want to put it that way. You can take a trade that triggers in the first 5 minutes. Just be aware that oftentimes stocks that hit a trigger price, a significant catalyst based on the daily chart, in other words, stocks that hit that price in the first 5 minutes often can quickly reverse. So if you do, as we teach our members, if you do take a trade in the first 5 minutes, make sure if it moves in your direction to start selling and get to a break-even stop as quick as you can. In other words, be aware that you've taken a riskier trade than usual. Okay. And that said, I did call NLST over the mic as it was at 446, something like that. It was starting to get a little bit of volume this morning. This is a 5 minute candle, but it was starting to move up, and I told the room it was very close to our trigger, that I was taking some, and I did get filled. So I started grabbing it at 447, got filled at 449, 448, putting out some buy orders. But I was aware that I was taking it early, okay? And really, even so, this thing went pretty quickly to 468 now. 450 entry, 468 high within 5 minutes. That's a big move on a $4 stock, and especially if you're aware that it's an early trade. So we always say we're going to send out a follow-up video so you can kind of get inside our heads and see what we do in our live trading chat room. So this is a good example of one that, if anyone took it, we certainly teach them to get out pretty quick. And I have some sells there at 459, 461, 464. So in other words, as it kept climbing, I just started hitting the sell button because it triggered in the first 5 minutes. Normally, I probably wouldn't have even taken it, but Netlist, as we said in the free pick video we sent out, at times can move. And let me move this out of the way. You can see it was getting nice volume this morning for that one too. So thought maybe we were in for a breakout. And then the market reversed intraday and sold off too. That didn't help any either. So let me zoom out. Here's the daily. Still deserves probably to be watched, but I don't love this, this topping tail here. So not so bullish on it anymore. I'll show you a couple others that we've called recently as our free picks. Look at Borders Group. We called this right here on this day. I think we took this around $1.33 actually in our chat room. It's almost doubled now. That's a real nice one. So Borders Group still doing well. Zales is one of our recent free picks. I think we called Zales on this day, and then we also had it on Bounce Watch on this day a couple days ago, and that thing's just been on fire. So some of these low-priced ones breaking out nicely. That said, I guess I can show you a couple examples. We always talk about low-risk entries. It was kind of a boring afternoon, but we are working on some neat stuff in the chat room. We're working on, you've heard us talk about waterfall plays. We're working on playing those for a bounce and then re-shorting them on one of our low-risk setups that we've put together. And it's been paper trading them this week, and it's working very, very well. So it's a great way to trade something that's selling off hard, both long and then switch around and trade it short again. It's been pretty interesting, and we're going to implement that probably starting next week as a new bona fide strategy. We've got, I don't know, 6, 7 different types of strategies we trade with, and we're going to add that one to our arsenal. So it's been pretty exciting. That said, I'll show you a couple examples real quick of the kind of examples of the low risk stuff we look for. This was just kind of a lazy afternoon trade. Ugly chart there. Big gap up and then sold off today. But let me just zoom in. These are 30-minute candles. Try that again. Trying to get to just show you today. This is today's trading, 30-minute candles. And it was selling off all day, okay? Certainly an ugly sell-off, but it put in this nice narrow candle here. And this is just something we didn't even have on our watch list, but it's just an example of something I found this afternoon that looked really good. Had this narrow candle here, and notice consecutive lower tops all the way until this nice narrow candle. 31.15 was the high here. So we called it bring up my drawing tool here. We called it right here at 31.16 as it broke this candle's high. Worst case stop below the trigger candle itself. Gotta get the lines off there so I can tell you what price that was. 31.16 entry, 31.04 stop. Okay, and then probably 5 minutes later, maybe 10 minutes later, this one's up into 31.30s. And anytime I get a nickel or more on paper, whether or not I take some off the table, I go to a break-even stop. So this one, and we teach our members to sell part of your trade if you get a dime or more. That's just kind of a generic round number. It doesn't have to be a dime, but you'll have very few losing trades if you start selling when you get a dime, get to a break-even stop. And again, from 31.15, this one ended up going to 31.47. Now that's not a huge move, but remember your initial risk was only about a dime, and probably 5 or 10 minutes into that trade, we're to a break-even stop and already paid ourselves. And if you adhere to those rules, you just can't go wrong. Just can't go wrong. Another example that didn't work of a low-risk setup that we look for. And again, these aren't huge trades. Boy, am I really zoomed in here. This is BTU. I'll try to show you the whole day's trading. And I'm going to wrap it up after this. I don't want to bore you with this, but I just want to show you an example of the type of stuff we look for. Now, this isn't something, we weren't watching BTU all day, but I found it this afternoon. Actually, someone in our chat alerted me to this setup. It's something that, in other words, it's a weak stock, okay? And then it's doing this kind of final push down on big volume. Now, it's already down big for the day. So this is when we become interested in it as a potential long. Now, let me zoom in here, now that you've seen today's intraday trading. And it's just one example. Like I said, we have about 7 or 8 strategies. Strategies that we use on a regular basis, and this is one of them. This is a nice low risk setup here. 47.96 was the trigger. Worst case stop 47.83. So you see a theme here. There's only 13 cents risk on a $47 stock, and 2, 3, 5 minute candles later. So 5 or 10, 15 minutes later, this is in the 48.20s. And as I said, once we get this pop, we're selling some and a break-even stop. So not a huge move there either, okay, but certainly a nice profitable tradable bounce right here with your entry here and your worst case stop here, and within 5 minutes your worst case stop is up to break even and you've paid yourself. So that's the kind of philosophy we use in our chat room. Yes, it can be boring at times because I won't just call out, hey, XYZ's running, so let's jump in. I've got to have a low risk setup, okay, and just keep that in mind. It can be boring at times, but we find a lot of low-risk stuff throughout the day. And again, we're still adding to our arsenal as well because now we're playing some of these waterfalls long, and then we're also learning how to reverse them and short them on the second sell-off with very low risk as well. So it's a new strategy. But I'm going to quit babbling here. We'll try to follow up next week with a free pick, and hope you have a good night.